Hello, I am Lauren, and today I'm talking about graphic design stuff, specifically scalable vector graphics in the free open source Inkscape SVG editor. Um, that's what I'll be using throughout this whole video. I've started work already on this. I believe this is the third video of me working through these snakes, starting to take it a little more seriously with each batch of snakes here. I'm gonna go ahead and start this. This video has been sped up about 8 times to make it short and not waste too much of anyone's time. So part of this tracing process that I'm using, and it's a very, very repetitive process, involves using the fill and stroke where we can set the color. I'm really trying to match the stroke on everything. Like everything should have this kind of dark brown stroke color. The width on this stroke is going to vary. Like there are a few pieces that have a smaller stroke on them, a few paths that have a smaller stroke on them. Um, the main tools that I'm using here are the pen tool to create the paths. Right now, what you're looking at is a node selector. So once I've created the path, I can go back, straighten some things out, make them curvy if they need to be curvy, make them pointy if they need to be pointy, kind of match up seams on things so that these pieces fit together a little better. Because just doing the first initial trace, making the shapes, it's not always it's not always exact if you're working with a very pixelated image like what we have here. You kind of have to guess on some of the lines. So here's one of the, I'm going to try to pause this. No, I didn't do it fast enough. I'm going to try to go back. Let's see if I can get it right there. Okay, so I just came up with another method. I mean, I didn't come up with it, but I realized I could do this. Instead of my old method of moving the original image off to the side so I can see my work, see what has been done, and then using Control Z to bring that image back into place when I'm done taking a look at it. I just started copying all the vector work that's on top of the image and then pasting a copy of it off to the side where I can zoom in and get a better idea of how the design is coming together. It's not even a design, it's a trace of someone else's work. So I'm taking no credit at all for this picture. It was sent to me by someone who said they found it on the internet. So this is not for commercial purposes. Anyway, let me go back to this. Since it's going so fast, I just wanted to slow it down or completely stop it just for a minute so I could point out this is for me a much better way of checking the work rather than relying on the Control Z. Like I know this part right here, I have the opacity turned down. That's why it's not really the same color. If I bring this up to 100, then I shouldn't see this tiny line here. It's the same here. I shouldn't see like the background path from the other snake. And since it's slowed down, we'll say, all right, here's the selector tool. You can see it's the little arrow. And then I also use the node tool to kind of move these paths around. So see some of this white space here? That's a pretty easy fix. And the best way to do that is with that node selector. I'm largely skipping over any of these shape tools, spirals, squares, circles, and mostly relying on the pen tool to create the paths. I haven't needed a perfect circle for anything yet, or a perfect square, or a star, anything like that. But I might when adding some of the finishing touches. These, this, I don't even know their names. I think there's a gradient tools. I'm skipping a lot of that. This looks like the pencil tool. What is this? Oh, it's a video, it won't tell me. Typography tool, which I do use a lot, but this isn't a typography setup. It's just tracing. and then gradient and mesh tools, which I might use. Well, I thought about using it on the inside mouthpieces, but I just went with like multi-path and different shades. It looks really terrible right now because there's no consistency to this coloring. It's all a bunch of different colors, but that's the kind of thing that I like to address, once I'm looking at the whole entire thing without the image on the background. So that's pencil, calligraphy, text, gradient, mesh, and then the eyedropper. I'm using the eyedropper pretty consistently just to, like I said, make sure these outlines are all the same color. All right, back to the sped up video. I think that's a good catching up. So now we're going to go back to working on here, and I wanted these to be a little more consistent. I didn't want to copy one whole snake and then paste it 2 times, but in doing it this way, I actually came up with a better method for the little side mouth gill. It's not a gill. I don't know what else to call it. It's just that thing that's right underneath the eye. And that, yeah, that nose is kind of funky. But I wanted those little pieces to be a little... Maybe I didn't do it here. I think it's the other snakes. I think I kind of let those maybe kind of junky, but then, yeah, I went back and smoothed up some of the crumply lines around things. When you're zoomed in, they're going to be a lot more obvious, and for me, it makes me want to fix them right there, but zoomed out, it's not as easy to tell because you've got your image that you're working on kind of melting into the background image from far away. That's the node tool, just adjusting some of the paths so it looks like all this stuff fits together. Yeah, I used a different method from one snake to the next, trying to figure out, well, what's the best way to go about tracing the snakes and not wasting a lot of time on details that don't really matter or details I could copy. Like, I probably could have copied that snake tongue. It looks like maybe the person that even made the design did it that way. They're all really similar. That is the pen tool for creating the path. Eyedropper tool for matching these outline colors. I, for some reason, only did it on the two on the outside. Smoothing out the outline of the snakes. And it took me a minute to decide how to go about this. This method I ended up deleting and just copying and pasting. Once I got to these last 3 snakes, there was a little more refinement in the method, I guess. And these snakes are a little more detailed than the ones on the top, and maybe even a little more than the ones on the side. Or by the time I got to these snakes, I was a little more prepared to handle the detail. And for the record, by the end of this video, the whole entire picture will not be done, but all sets of snakes are completed. So when I got to the last 3 snakes, I did find one little tactic that I thought worked, and that's just to find all the pieces, little pieces that you know are going to be the same color, and do them all first across as many snakes as you can. Don't just do one snake at a time. This weird thing that's super awkward for me to watch right now, it actually ended up being the best method for the little side mouth piece, side snake mouth piece. It looks funky when you're like up close to it, and it probably still could use a little straightening out. but I think it looks better than the ones for the snake on the top and that first one that I tried. And it was easy to move the paths around to fit into the shape that I needed. It was a very simple shape. Kind of silly, but it works. Very awkward snake tongue. Looks like a tree branch, really, but that's okay. You or me or anybody else tracing someone else's work, not only is it okay to change the design, but it's actually kind of encouraged for you to maybe put your own spin on it. That way you nor anyone else feels like it's a direct copy, which I gotta take my own advice on that and find some things to change about it so that I'm not directly copying someone else's work. But for the sake of learning how to work with Inkscape, if you're gonna work from raster images, like from photos, then this is, I think, a pretty good first method to start with. Just use the pen tool, use the eyedropper to match colors on the original image, and then once you start making your paths and determine like a little color set for the image you're working on, then just start copying from that, because you'll notice on the original image you're not going to get the same consistency with the color. You want it to be the same hex code on each one of those strokes and fills. With the reds, the range is probably like a dozen different red and pink colors. Only one white color, only one yellow color, and maybe a range of like 3 different green colors for the snake bodies. But all of the outlines the same color. The hair will be one color. But I thought about going back and adding like a little bit of yellow shading to the snake underbelly for a few of the pieces, like these two guys in particular. But once I have the whole image created on top of the original, then I can address it more as its own composition and then compare side by side, like a painter working from a photograph. You know, you've got your original image on the left, and then on the right now you're trying to make a few final details, few final adjustments, rather than just tracing the whole thing and saying, okay, whatever I can't trace, then I won't do. So this isn't it doesn't have to be the final stop for a project that started out as someone else's photograph, someone else's work, or, you know, just art in a different form. I think I had 2 different methods for creating the eyes. One was, you know, one yellow circle with the brown outline on top of it, and then another one was a blockier brown path with it ends up being the same thing because you cut out more or less the same thing because you cut out the pieces that you don't need. And that's where I was tracing the wrong line and then had to undo that. Didn't happen too many times. On the parts where I pause, I know that's where I was like, okay, where was I and what am I about to trace, so that I don't go off on the wrong tracing track. Because I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff while I'm doing this. It's very lending to that. You know, like if you're taking a walk or on a like an exercise bike, like you think about stuff, right? Anyway, that's pretty much it. We got through all the snakes, some minor details, and minor details, one of my favorite things to say. Some minor details left in finishing this image. Let me save this. So this was the old method, which got a little annoying because you see how slow it'll drag, and then I would zoom in and go, oh yeah, look at how this looks. Do I like it? Is there a chunk that I missed tracing? Should I delete any of this and start over? That looks funky. And then if you Control Z, it would just snap back into place. But I started selecting everything that I knew was a path, copy that, and then over to the side, paste that. So with Inkscape, when you paste something to this document area, like this is the document, I don't know what to call this. There's a canvas, there's a document, this is just, it's like an artboard. But anyway, whether you're here or there, whatever, wherever you have this arrow pointing is exactly where the paste is going to go. So if I have the arrow pointing right here and I say Control V, then that's where I'm going to see the thing that I have on the clipboard. And I would think that's how it would always work, but all kinds of software disappoints me when I try to do that. So I think that wraps up anything important about this picture, and I'm really looking forward to doing the last bit of this and probably never looking at it again. It's been so long and so drawn out, and I have other stuff that I want to blandly talk about.